It was a cold, quiet morning. The train moved slowly through the fog-covered countryside. Trees passed by the window like shadows. Inside the train, people were reading newspapers, chatting softly, or simply sleeping. In the corner seat, by the window, sat a man who looked different from the rest. He wore a black suit, polished leather shoes, and a gold watch that caught the light every time he moved. His suitcase was expensive, and his coat looked new. To most people, he looked rich, important, powerful. But his eyes told a different story. They were tired eyes, lonely eyes. He didn't smile, he didn't speak to anyone, he just stared out of the window as if searching for something far away. He had everything money could buy, but something was missing. His name was Mr. Kareem, a successful businessman in his 50s. He owned factories, hotels, and more money than he could ever spend. But his heart was empty. He had no family, no friends, and no one to talk to. For years, he lived alone in a big house with silent walls and cold floors. No one knew that behind the suit and the watch was a man who cried at night. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to rest. The soft sound of the train wheels was like a lullaby. For the first time in weeks, he felt a little peace. Then it happened. A voice, soft, shaky, and close, whispered into his ear. "Dad." His eyes flew open. His heart began to race. Did he hear it right? He looked around quickly. The train was full. People sat in their places, talking, reading, minding their own business. No one was looking at him. No one seemed to notice anything strange. He rubbed his eyes and shook his head. Maybe he imagined it. Maybe he was just tired. But then slowly, he turned to his right. A teenage girl stood in the aisle beside him. She was wearing a blue sweater and had a small backpack on her shoulder. Her clothes were simple, and her shoes looked worn out. Her hair was tied back, and her face looked pale from the cold. But her eyes, they were full of tears. She was staring right at him. He frowned. He didn't know her. He was sure of that. He had never seen her before in his life. But the girl didn't move. She stood frozen, breathing heavily. Her lips trembled, as if she wanted to say something more, but the words wouldn't come out. "Excuse me?" Mr. Kareem asked, confused. The girl's eyes filled with more tears. I'm sorry," she whispered, looking down. Then she looked up again. You're Kareem, right?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, but how do you know my name?" She opened her mouth but said nothing. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small photograph. Her hands shook as she held it out. He took it carefully, looking at the photo. It was old. The corners were bent and the color had faded, but he could still see the faces. His own face, smiling. Beside him was a woman, young, beautiful, and holding a baby. His heart stopped. He remembered this photo. It was taken many years ago during a time when he was happy, a time he had tried to forget. "I've been looking for you," the girl said softly. Mr. Kareem looked back at her, confused and scared. "Who are you?" The girl wiped her eyes. I think I'm your daughter." His mouth fell open. He stared at her, speechless. Daughter? No, that couldn't be. He never had children. At least, that's what he believed. The woman, in the photo, she left him, disappeared without a word. He never saw her again, and he never knew why. The girl sat down across from him. She didn't speak for a moment. She just looked at him like she had waited her whole life for this moment. Mr. Kareem felt his hands tremble. His throat went dry. His mind was full of noise, memories, questions, fear. Could it be true? Was this girl really his child? If yes, why now? Why after all these years? And if it was true, what else had been kept from him? The train kept moving, cutting through the morning fog. But inside, time had stopped. A man with everything had just been given something he never thought he'd have, a piece of his past. He didn't know what to say, he didn't know what to believe. But one thing was certain. This ride was not going to be a normal one. The train moved forward, but Mr. Kareem's mind was stuck in the past. He kept staring at the photograph in his hand. It was shaking between his fingers. The girl who sat in front of him claimed to be his daughter. But how? He never had a daughter. Not that he knew of. His voice came out low. What did you say? The girl looked down at her hands. Her fingers were thin, cold, and tightly holding the strap of her backpack. She didn't answer immediately. She looked like she had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her head. But now, sitting in front of the man she had searched for, the words felt too heavy. "My name is Alina," she said finally. Her voice was soft, and each word carried pain. "I'm 17. My mother's name was Sophia." The moment he heard that, Mr. Karim felt something break inside him. Sophia. He hadn't heard that name in over 16 years. She was the woman he once loved deeply. She came into his life like sunshine and left like a storm. One day, she was gone. No letters, no calls, no goodbye, just gone. He had searched for her in the beginning. He visited her hometown, called her old friends, even hired someone to look for her. But nothing. It was like she had disappeared into thin air. Eventually, he gave up. His heart turned cold. He told himself she had betrayed him, and maybe she never really loved him at all. But now, this girl, Alina, sat before him, claiming to be the daughter of that very woman. "I don't understand," Karim said slowly. "Sophia left me. She never told me anything, not about a child, not even a goodbye." Alina nodded. "I know, she told me." He looked at her, confused. "She told me everything before she died," she added. Those words hit him like a stone. "Died?" Alina swallowed hard and blinked fast. She didn't want to cry again, but the tears still came. "She passed away 3 months ago," she said, wiping her eyes. "Cancer. She was sick for a long time. She tried to be strong, but in the end, she just couldn't fight anymore." Mr. Karim felt something heavy in his chest, a pain he hadn't felt in years. Sophia. Gone forever. But why didn't she ever tell me? He asked, his voice cracking. "Why didn't she come back or write to me?" Alina looked up. "She did. She tried. Many times." Mr. Karim looked shocked. "What are you saying?" "She wrote letters to you every month, for almost 2 years. She said she called your house once, but someone told her never to call again. She even came to your office once, but the guard didn't let her in." Karim sat back slowly, stunned. His mind went back to those years. He remembered how his parents had pushed him to forget Sophia. They said she wasn't the right kind of woman, that she was after his money. He remembered how they watched over his calls, his visits, even his mail during that time. He never thought they would go that far. Alina reached into her bag and pulled out an old envelope. It was soft with age. The ink faded. She handed it to him. "This is one of the letters she wrote to you," she said. "I found them in her old box after she died. She never gave up hope. She believed one day I would find you." He opened the envelope with shaking fingers. Inside was a short letter. The writing was beautiful but tired. He read, "My dearest Karim, I don't know if this letter will reach you, but I must try. I didn't leave you by choice. I was made to leave. I was threatened. For our safety, I stayed away, but I could never stop loving you. And now I carry a part of you, our daughter. Her name is Alina." Mr. Karim couldn't read further. His eyes were too full of tears. He pressed the letter to his chest and closed his eyes. He had lost her, and he never even got the chance to say goodbye. Alina watched him silently. She didn't expect him to accept her so easily. She knew this wasn't a story with a happy start, but she had to try. "I'm not here for money," she said gently. "I don't want anything from you. My mother just wanted me to know who my father was. She told me you were a good man, even if the world tried to separate us." Karim opened his eyes and looked at her. He could see Sophia in Alina's face, the same eyes, the same kindness. "But I wasn't a good man," he whispered. "I gave up on her. I gave up on everything." Alina shook her head. "You didn't know the truth, now you do." Silence sat between them for a long time. Finally, Karim spoke. voice low and broken. "What do I do now?" Alina smiled through her tears. "You don't have to do anything. Just let me sit here for a while." He nodded slowly, and for the first time in many years, Mr. Kareem didn't feel completely alone. The train kept moving, but time seemed to slow down inside. That one small coach, Mr. Kareem sat still, the letter resting in his lap. His eyes stared out of the window, but his mind was far away, lost in memories he thought he had buried long ago. Across from him, Alina sat quietly, giving him space. She didn't speak, didn't push. She just watched him and waited. Kareem finally broke the silence. "I met your mother when I was a young man," he said slowly. "She wasn't rich. She worked at a small cafe near my office, but she had the brightest smile I'd ever seen." He closed his eyes for a moment as, if he could still see her, "She would bring me tea every morning. I never even liked tea before that," he said with a soft laugh, "but I kept going back and just to see her." Alina listened carefully, her fingers wrapped around the strap of her bag. "We started talking, then meeting after work. Slowly, I fell in love. I told her everything, my dreams, my fears, my pain. She listened, always with those gentle eyes. Kareem's voice turned heavy. My parents didn't like her. They said she wasn't from our class, that she would bring shame to our name. They told me to stop seeing her. I refused." He paused and looked down. Alina nodded slowly. "She told me some things when I was little, but not everything. Only when she got sick did she finally share the full truth." Kareem leaned forward. "What did she say?" Alina looked down at her hands. She said, "She was scared. Someone came to her door and told her to leave town. That if she didn't disappear, something bad would happen. Not just to her, but to you too." Kareem's heart dropped. "My father," he said softly. "It must have been him. He controlled everything back then. My calls, my office, even my life." He shook his head. "I never imagined he could be so cruel." Alina pulled another folded paper from her bag. "She wrote this for you too," she said, handing it over. "She never stopped loving you, not even once." Kareem opened it. It was a small note. Just a few lines. "I never stopped waiting for the day you would find us, but if that day never comes, I hope our daughter finds you. Please don't push her away. She's your blood, and she deserves love." He put the note to his chest, holding it tightly. "I never knew," he whispered again. "I never knew I had a daughter. I missed all your birthdays, your first day of school, your childhood." Alina wiped her eyes. "It's not your fault. I used to hate you when I was small. I thought you didn't want us. But when Mom told me the truth, I forgave you. Even before I met you." Kareem looked at her with eyes full of sorrow and love. "Can you really forgive me?" Alina gave a small, warm smile. "I already did." There was a silence, not empty but full of emotion. "I want to know everything," Kareem said after a moment. "About you, about her, about your life. I want to know what I missed." Alina opened her bag and took out a small photo album. It was old, the cover slightly torn. "I brought this for you," she said, placing it in his hands. He opened it slowly. Photos of a little girl, laughing, crying, playing, growing up. Some with Sophia, smiling proudly. Some with no one. Taken. In school, parks, or birthdays with no father present. Every photo stabbed his heart but also warmed it. He had missed so much. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to start again. Kareem looked up. "Where are you going now?" Alina looked out the window. "Nowhere, really. I just took the train because I knew you'd be on it. I waited outside your office for 2 days, but I was scared to talk to you. So I followed you here." He smiled softly. "That's brave." Alina smiled too. "Mom said I had her heart and your stubbornness." They both laughed gently, and for the first time in years, Mr. Kareem felt something deep in his soul. Hope. The past had hurt him, but this girl, she might be his future. As the train moved forward, so did his heart. The train slowed down at a small town station. A few passengers stepped off. Some new ones entered, chatting softly, carrying bags. But for Kareem and Alina, nothing outside mattered. They were both lost, not in the movement of the train, but in the movement of their hearts. Mr. Kareem still held the photo album, carefully turning each page. With every photo, he saw moments of a life he never got to live. Alina's first birthday, her school uniform, a missing tooth, drawings on the wall. In one photo, she was blowing out candles with a big smile, and in the corner, Sophia stood, watching, proud, tired, but full of love. She worked 2 jobs most of her life, Alina said quietly. We never had much, but she always made sure I had what I needed. Even when she was sick, she smiled for me. Kareem's voice trembled. I should have been there. You shouldn't have grown up like that. Alina looked at him gently. You didn't know, and now you're here. That's what matters. He closed the album and placed it carefully in his lap. I feel like I've missed an entire lifetime, he said. I don't know what your favorite food is, or what music you like, or the name of your first school. Alina smiled softly. We have time now. Kareem looked at her, hope flickering in his eyes. Do we? Will you let me be a part of your life? She nodded. That's why I came. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Kareem reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small notebook, leather-bound, old, and dusty. He held it for a few seconds before speaking. There's something I want to show you. He handed it to Alina. She opened it slowly. Inside were pages filled with his handwriting, but they weren't business notes or work records. They were letters. Each page was a letter, written to someone who had never received them, to Sophia. I started writing to her after she left, Kareem said, voice low. I didn't know where she went, but writing helped me survive. I never sent them. I didn't even know if she was alive. Alina flipped through the pages, reading pieces out loud. Sophia, I saw a couple holding hands today. It reminded me of us. I still remember how your fingers felt in mine. I passed by the cafe today. The new girl doesn't smile like you did. No one does. I don't hate you. I just miss you. I wish you would come back and tell me this was all a mistake. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She pressed the notebook to her heart. She would have loved this, she whispered. I wrote one every month for years, Kareem said. Then I stopped. I thought it was useless. I thought she didn't care. But now, I wish I had kept writing. Alina wiped her tears and looked at him. She wrote 2, letters to you and letters to me. I still have them all. She opened her backpack and pulled out a small bundle tied with a ribbon. Dozens of folded papers, some old and yellow, others newer. She handed one to him. Kareem opened it gently. My little Alina, if you ever meet your father one day, don't be angry with him. Life kept us apart, not love. Your father had a kind heart. I know it's still there. His hands trembled. She never hated me, he whispered. No. Alina said, she loved you until her last breath. Kareem looked out of the window. The sky was changing, the light getting warmer as afternoon approached. But inside the train, something even more powerful was happening. 2 broken pieces were slowly finding their way back to each other. He looked at Alina again. What did she want for you? Alina smiled faintly. A life better than hers. She wanted me to study, to be strong, to never be afraid of the truth. And she wanted me to find you, not for answers, but for connection. Kareem nodded slowly. She gave you everything. She gave me love, Alina said, and now she gave me you. He reached across the table and gently took her hand. It was cold, but it fit perfectly in his. I don't know how to be a father, he said honestly. But if you'll let me, I want to learn. Alina's eyes filled again. I'd like that. The train whistled softly as it passed through another small village. Fields stretched on both sides. The world felt quiet. Inside the train car, something rare and beautiful was blooming. Forgiveness. I want to show you something else, Kareem said, pulling out his phone. I have a house outside the city. It's peaceful. Trees, flowers, a small pond. I used to go there when I felt lonely. Maybe we could go there together sometime? Alina nodded. That sounds perfect, he smiled. Maybe we could put her letters there. Make a small place for her. Alina smiled too. She'd love that. They didn't need to say much after that. They just sat together, watching the world move past the window, and somewhere far above, if souls can see. Sophia was smiling. 2 days had passed since the train ride, but for Karim and Alina, everything had changed. They were no longer strangers. A door had opened between them, a quiet, gentle connection that neither of them wanted to close again. Now, Karim stood outside a large wooden gate with Alina beside him. The trees above moved slowly with the wind, and birds chirped in the distance. The air smelled fresh, like earth, flowers, and memories. This is it, Karim said, unlocking the gate. The house by the pond. As the gate creaked open, Alina's eyes widened. The house wasn't grand like a mansion. It was simple, beautiful in a quiet way. Painted white with blue windows, flowers growing along the walls, and a small path leading to the pond. Alina stepped inside the garden, taking it all in. It's peaceful, she whispered. Karim smiled. I built this place years ago. When life became too loud, I came here. They walked together toward the porch. Karim opened the front door and let her in. The living room was cozy, filled with books, soft chairs, and old paintings. The floor creaked slightly under their feet. No one comes here? Alina asked. Only me, Karim said. I kept this place a secret. Even my friends don't know it exists. It was my escape. He paused. I never brought anyone here, not even your mother. But now, I wish I had. They walked through the rooms. A small kitchen, a quiet study, a bedroom with large windows that looked out at the pond. Alina stopped by a shelf filled with photos and small objects. She picked up a tiny music box and turned the key. It played a soft, sad tune. My mother used to hum this, she said. Karim looked surprised. I bought it from a small village during a business trip. Strange. Maybe your mother heard it too somewhere. The world is small. They walked to the pond outside. A bench sat under a tall tree, its leaves gently falling. The water was still, calm, like a mirror. I used to sit here for hours, Karim said, sitting down. I thought I was alone, but now I wonder. Maybe someone was waiting for me to return to life. Alina sat beside him. She pulled something from her bag. A photo of Sophia. I brought her, she said with a small smile. I thought she should see this place too. Karim took the photo carefully. It was Sophia, younger than he remembered, smiling with her eyes closed, holding a small baby in her arms. Alina. He placed the photo gently on the bench between them. She belongs here, he whispered. For a while, they just sat in silence. The wind moved through. The days passed slowly at the house by the pond. For Karim and Alina, life felt new. Like spring after a long winter. They cooked simple meals together, shared stories, and walked along the water in the evenings. Karim taught her how to play chess. Alina helped him plant flowers near the porch. There were moments of silence, but no longer awkward. Now, the silence felt peaceful. On the 5th morning, Karim sat in the garden reading a letter from Sophia, one that Alina had brought. Alina was inside making tea. The birds chirped softly. The pond shimmered under the sun. Then came a knock on the gate. It was sharp, loud, unexpected. Karim looked up, frowning slightly. He wasn't expecting anyone. Almost no one knew this place. He stood up and slowly walked to the gate. Another knock, faster this time. He opened it. A woman stood there. She was in her late 50s, her face lined with age, but her eyes were strong. Searching. She wore a dark green dress and carried a leather purse. Her hair was tied back and her lips were pressed together tightly. Karim's breath caught. Zara, he whispered. The woman nodded. Hello, Karim. It had been over 20 years. She was Sophia's older sister, Zara. He hadn't seen her since the day Sophia left him. Kareem stood frozen. What? What are you doing here? He asked. I heard you met Alina, she said, stepping inside without waiting. I heard you found each other. Kareem closed the gate behind her slowly. How did you know? Zara looked at him. I always knew this day would come. I just didn't think it would be now. Inside the house, Alina heard voices and came out. She froze when she saw the woman. Aunt Zara? She asked. Zara's eyes softened slightly. Yes, child. Alina slowly walked forward. Why are you here? Zara looked at both of them. Then she sat on the bench by the garden. I came to talk, she said. But first, I need to tell you something. They sat across from her, confused. Zara took a deep breath. I was the one who told Sophia to leave you, Kareem, she said. Back then you were too busy with your work, always traveling. Sophia cried every night. She felt alone. Kareem looked down. She didn't want to leave, Zara continued. But I told her it was best. I told her that raising a child alone would be better than raising one in silence. Kareem's hands tightened. I hated you, Zara said bluntly. I thought you didn't deserve her. So when she left, I helped her disappear. I changed her phone number. I even blocked your letters. She never saw them. Alina gasped. You stopped her from reading his letters? Zara nodded slowly. I thought I was protecting her. A deep silence filled the air. Kareem felt like the earth beneath him had shifted. I spent years thinking she didn't want me, he said, his voice shaking. That she hated me. She didn't, Zara said. She loved you until her last breath. Tears slid down Kareem's face. And I took that from both of you, Zara whispered. I'm sorry. Alina stared at her aunt. You raised me like a second mother, she said. But you never told me the truth. I was afraid, Zara said. Afraid that if you met him, you'd forget us. That you'd leave. Alina stepped back. That was never your choice to make. Zara looked down. I know, that's why I came. To tell the truth before it's too late. Kareem stood up. I don't know if I can forgive you, he said honestly. You took away my family. I understand, Zara whispered. But you gave her a life when I didn't, he added. You were there when I wasn't. Zara's eyes filled with tears. I wish I had done things differently. Alina stood beside her father. I don't hate you, Aunt Zara, she said softly. But you need to understand. The past hurts more when it's hidden. Zara nodded. I just wanted to see you both, she said. To say what I couldn't. To say all these years. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. This was the last letter Sophia wrote before she died, Zara said. She gave it to me to send to you, Kareem. But I never did. I didn't have the courage. She handed it to Kareem and stood up. I'll go now. Kareem didn't stop her, but Alina did. Wait, she said. Where will you go? Zara smiled. Back to my quiet life, but lighter now because I finally told the truth. She turned and walked away, slowly disappearing down the path. Kareem held the letter in his hands. His fingers shook as he opened it. Inside was Sophia's handwriting, still soft, still warm. Kareem, if Alina ever finds you, don't push her away. She's full of your fire and my heart. Don't waste the second chance life gives you. And if you're reading this, it means you found each other. I am at peace now. Kareem closed his eyes. His heart ached, but it also felt free. Alina placed her hand on his shoulder. She forgave us both, she said. And in that moment, Kareem finally understood. A week had passed since Zara's visit. The letter from Sophia now sat framed in Kareem's study, resting beside her photo and the music box. Sometimes when Alina passed by, she would stop and read the words again. They gave her comfort. Every corner of the house by the pond felt different now, not haunted by silence, but filled with quiet hope. One morning, Alina stood on the porch, holding 2 cups of tea. The air was cool. The pond reflected the sky like a mirror. Birds danced between the trees. She handed a cup to Kareem, who sat in his chair with a soft smile on his face. "Thank you," he said, taking it gently. They sat side by side for a while, sipping slowly. Then Alina spoke. "Dad." Kareem turned to her. He still wasn't used to hearing that word. It felt new every time, like a gift. "Yes?" "I've been thinking," she said. "I don't want to run away anymore. I don't want to carry unanswered questions or sleep with memories that hurt." He nodded. "Me too. I want us to live," she said, "not just survive." Kareem looked at her with quiet pride. "Then let's begin," he said. They made a plan that day. The first step: go back to the city together, not to stay forever, but to close old chapters. Kareem visited his office. He stood in front of the building where he had spent years working and traveling, where he had once believed money could fill the emptiness. Now he saw it for what it really was: a place. "Nothing more?" He handed his resignation letter to the manager. "I'm done chasing things that never mattered," he said simply. The second step. Alina visited her small apartment. She packed her few things, said goodbye to the lonely walls, and returned to the pond. She no longer needed the city to feel strong. She had found strength in truth. Back at the house, they turned a room into a studio for Alina. She painted, wrote stories, and smiled more than before. Kareem spent his mornings the garden, learning how to grow vegetables, and something he had never done but always wanted to try. They cooked together, ate together, laughed together. Sometimes they talked about Sophia. Sometimes they sat in silence, just happy to be near each other. One evening they lit a lantern and placed Sophia's letter inside a wooden box. They floated it gently onto the pond. The lantern glowed softly as it drifted across the water. "For you, Mama," Alina whispered. Kareem added, "Thank you for sending her to me." They watched until the lantern disappeared into the night, its light still flickering. Weeks turned into months. And then, one morning, Kareem called Alina into the garden. "I have something for you," he said. He handed her a small wrapped package. Inside was a leather notebook, old but carefully kept. On the first page he had written, "To Alina, my daughter, my light, my second chance. Let's write the rest of our story together." Alina's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't need to," Kareem said. "Just live. Just be here." And so they began. They traveled to places Kareem had once visited alone. Now, with Alina beside him. They laughed in parks, shared food on small streets, took photos on quiet hills. Each moment was a stitch in the fabric of their new life. One day they visited an orphanage and donated in Sophia's name. Another day they met a young girl who had lost her parents. Kareem knelt beside her and said, "You're not alone. Family finds you. Sometimes, when you least expect it." That girl smiled, and for a second Kareem saw a little bit of Alina in her. Their story was no longer just about pain. It was about healing. And one evening, as they sat once again by the pond, Kareem said something that stayed with Alina forever. "We don't get to choose the first chapters of our lives, but we always get to write the last ones." Alina leaned her head on his shoulder, and in that quiet, glowing twilight they both knew. The train had taken them somewhere they never expected.